Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. Now I will tell you a story about in the heart of the once lush Amazon jungle, where bird calls echo through the dense undergrowth, an unusual silence has descended. Not because nature is at peace, but because life is being pushed to its limits. Trees have fallen in large swaths. The ground is scarred as if the forest had been skinned alive. This is where fierce battles are beginning, not between humans, but between the many species that once lived in harmony in this forest. You can imagine a jaguar wandering back to its old territory, only to find that it has disappeared, replaced by a pack of strange hyenas setting up a new base. It has no choice but to fight, not for food, not for power, but for survival. Meanwhile, in faraway Africa, lions and hyenas, long sworn enemies, are now forced to clash more frequently. Not because they are more aggressive, but because the fields, hunting grounds, and riverbanks where prey once roamed have been flattened into farms and settlements. They have no choice but to fight over every little piece of territory that remains. This is not just a tragedy of nature, it is a terrifying reminder of what happens when ecosystems are damaged. And if you are middle-aged and have witnessed the changes in nature over the past few decades, you will feel the pain more than anyone. Every wild animal has its own territory. It is not simply a living space, but a place to store scents, footprints, hunting routes, rest, breed, and raise young. It is a map of each individual's existence. When that territory is lost, chaos begins. Imagine living in a house for 30 years, knowing every brick, every corner. One day, someone suddenly demolishes that house. You have no place to go, and everywhere you go, there are guards, ready to attack. That is how animals feel when their forests are cut down. A fish eagle that once ruled a winding river now has to face a northern hawk that has come down because its home riverbank has been filled in. An Alaskan grizzly bear suddenly encounters a strange pack of wolves in the lowlands, a place that is not their territory. These fights are no longer an expression of hunting instinct, but the last screams of cornered creatures. And the most heartbreaking thing is, the young, the next generation, are paying the price. As their mothers constantly fight to keep every little piece of land, the time they have to care for and protect is severely reduced. Many young ones have not yet learned to hunt, have not yet understood nature, and are left behind. These fierce wars are not the story of the distant jungle. They are a precise reflection of the imbalance, a warning to all of humanity. But amid this dark scene, there is still hope. The question is, what can we, adults who have witnessed nature gradually shrinking, do to reverse the situation? First, we must understand one thing. Nature does not need our pity. It needs our action. And the most effective action is to preserve living space for all species. When a forest is preserved, when a riverbank is restored, the territory of species gradually returns to its original state. Unnecessary wars will decrease. Mothers will no longer have to growl and fight over every bush to feed their young. New generations will grow up in stability. Many areas around the world have begun to successfully implement the biological corridor, model areas that connect fragmented forest patches together, allowing species to move easily and avoid unnecessary conflicts. A corridor of several dozen kilometers can save hundreds of species, keeping the peace in the wild world. And even you, even if you are not a biologist, can still contribute. Just by making smart consumer choices, supporting non-deforestation products, sharing the right information, and participating in local conservation programs. You are doing your part to keep the peace in the natural world. There have been many misunderstandings surrounding the story of animals fighting over territory. Some people think, that's natural. Lions always attack hyenas. Bears always chase wolves. What's new? But what we need to understand is that the frequency and scale of battles are increasing abnormally. In a healthy ecosystem, conflicts are moderate. Lions and hyenas, though enemies, have enough space to avoid each other most of the time. They know the boundaries and they respect them. But when forests are cut down, grasslands are burned, water is polluted, the boundaries blur, forcing species to encounter more often, more fiercely. And the ones who suffer the most are the cubs, creatures that are not strong enough to defend themselves, not experienced enough to escape. When their mothers are injured, killed, the chain of existence is broken. Nature has no hospital. An orphan baby in the forest is almost certain death. The truth is, interspecies warfare is never ideal. It is the result of ecological crisis. In the sweltering heat of a dry day on the African plains, another battle breaks out. This time, it's between an adult male hippo and an elderly crocodile, once the silent king of this stretch of river. The truth is, this place was never their territory. But after a new hydroelectric project was built upstream, the flow dried up, the water became turbid, and all the animals were forced to retreat to the remaining small stretch of river. Crocodiles, with their cool appearance, are used to ambushing in deep water. But hippos, though they look slow, are one of the most aggressive creatures on the planet. They will not yield to anyone when they feel threatened, especially when their calves are still around. The fight lasted less than 2 minutes. Splashing, growling, and then the hippo's fatal bite straight into the crocodile's midsection, leaving it unable to struggle. Everything ended as quickly as it began. One moved on. One remained, alone in the quiet water. People often look at such scenes and sigh. Nature is cruel. But nature is only cruel when we make it unbalanced. If the river still flows as before, perhaps the crocodiles will still hunt downstream, and the hippos will still live peacefully in the flooded areas. When living space is narrowed, the instinct to protect the territory rises more strongly than ever. And that is no different from humans. Each of us has a spiritual territory, health, home, a sense of security. When we are oppressed, stressed, out of control, we also react. The only difference is that we have words, while other animals do not. They only have fangs, claws, and instincts. But from here, an important lesson is revealed. If we want to reduce unnecessary wars between species, we ourselves must stop encroachment by protecting forests, keeping water clean, and reducing indiscriminate logging. In the tropical forests of Southeast Asia, where hundreds of birds used to sing every morning, now the sound of chainsaws echoes, and when the sawing stops, an eerie silence surrounds. A lone pangolin gropes through the leaf litter. Its familiar hollow tree has been cut down. Nearby, a civet frantically flees from a reticulated python that has just arrived from another area, also because its habitat has been burned down to grow rubber. Conflicts between species are no longer rare events, but rather a chain of links resulting from deforestation. And each chain carries with it a series of risks for humans. As predators are forced closer to human settlements, the risk of disease transmission from wildlife to humans, known as zoonosis, skyrockets. Past pandemics such as SARS, Ebola, COVID-19 have all been linked to deforestation and wildlife trafficking. So protecting the territories of all species is not just a moral or environmental issue. It is a matter of survival. The biggest question is, where do we start? The answer lies in our everyday choices. Every time you choose to buy a product that is certified deforestation-free, like recycled paper, organic coffee, sustainably harvested wood, you are helping to keep our forests intact. When you get involved in fundraising projects to reforest, or simply share accurate information about conservation, you are part of the solution. If you are in your 50s or 60s, you may be the one who has witnessed the loss of birds and trees. But you are also the one who has inspired the next generation, that it is never too late to protect nature. Another misconception that many people have is that species will adapt if the environment changes. They say, lions will hunt elsewhere, birds will fly away, bears will find other places to live. But no, survival is not that easy. It is similar to when an older person tries to adapt to a new diet, a new lifestyle. The body needs time, stability, and support. The same goes for animals. Birds cannot lay eggs in just any tree. Giraffes can survive without eating any leaves. And bears cannot move to an area with no caves, no fish, no tree roots to dig. The truth is, not all species can adapt quickly enough. And not every battle has a winner. Mostly, there are losers. Losers who lose their territory, who are pushed aside, who have no choice but to retreat or die. In the snow-covered mountains of North America, a mother bear was wounded after a fight with an unfamiliar male wolf. She tried to crawl back to the cave where her 2 cubs were waiting, but the deep bite and the cold were weakening her body. The 2 cubs, less than 3 months old, began to cry. Little did they know that for their mother, the battle for territory that day was over a few square meters of land and a small stream, where there were enough salmon for the family to survive the winter. But the mother bear could not return. And that is why every time the forest is destroyed, not only do we lose trees, but we also lose thousands of stories that have never been told. Stories full of sacrifice, instinct, struggle, and even silent maternal love. Those stories are disappearing every day. When it comes to territory, few people imagine that the sky is also a battlefield. In the barren hills of southern Asia, where the ground is cracked by drought, the mountain eagle and the forest falcon have begun to engage in fierce clashes. Previously, each species had its own hunting grounds. The eagles occupied the high mountain peaks, while the falcons flew low, stalking their prey through the dense canopy. But when the forests below were cleared to plant rubber trees, the falcons had no place to stay. They were forced to fly higher, entering the eagle's sky. The collisions between the 2 species continued to increase. A young falcon, still learning to fly, had its wing torn off by the eagle's talons. It fell freely, disappearing into the dry grass. No one knew if it was alive or dead. You may ask, why can't nature be in harmony? In fact, nature was in harmony until humans came along and messed things up. We cut down forests for development. But then we ask ourselves, why are animals attacking humans more and more? Falcons, eagles, tigers, bears, snakes. They don't attack out of malice. They attack because they have nowhere to go. Just like a person who is backed into a corner, they will react, even though they are naturally gentle. Amidst all this, there is a ray of hope. Not all fights end in blood. In a newly established reserve in South America, conservationists noticed a strange phenomenon. Species that used to be in conflict, like jaguars and lynxes, began to share space without fighting. The secret lies in the structure of the living space designed to mimic the original forest, with different ecological layers. The lynxes choose the high hills, the jaguars choose the dense areas near streams. Both are still hunting, still living, but not facing each other. Only when humans take a step back, creating enough space and the right kind of space, can all species find their inherent peace. And that doesn't just require large organizations. It starts with small, very small actions. Stop buying wild pets. Don't share entertaining videos of animals in captivity. Refuse ivory, rhino horn, or animal skin products. Limit the use of plastics and chemicals released into the forest environment. One person at a time. one choice at a time. That's how we stop the war before it starts. Imagine you're a female leopard, raising 2 cubs. Your forest burned down 3 weeks ago. You run dozens of kilometers, avoiding traps, avoiding people, avoiding fire. You're hungry. Your cubs are crying. You smell the meat, the scent of a lost fawn. But when you rush forward, a tiger is already there. It is not a hunt. It is a battle for survival. But in the midst of that battle, the mother leopard still retreats. Because she knows, if she dies, her cub will die with her. And that is what humans should learn. Being strong does not mean winning. Sometimes being strong means knowing how to yield, knowing how to retreat, knowing how to preserve life, not only for yourself, but for the next generation. All creatures have feelings. They also know how to sacrifice. They also know how to endure. But they cannot speak. They only act and hope to be understood. We can be the ones to rewrite the fate of those creatures, or the ones to close the final door. One afternoon, in an Amazon rainforest that had just been restored after 5 years of restoration, people came across a strange sight. A python over 6 meters long lay curled up by a stream, while a jaguar watched from above in a tree. Neither attacked, neither threatened. Both were silent, as if both were too tired to fight. In nature, the winner is usually the one who waits. But that didn't last long. An excavator rumbled in the distance, and the jaguar's eyes lit up with alertness. The python slithered away silently, not because of the enemy, but because of the human voice. One day, the fight will break out again. Maybe crocodile versus buffalo in the floodplains. Maybe grizzly bear versus wolf in the melting Arctic forest. Or lion versus hyena in the savannah where only the stumps of burned trees are. One wins, one loses, and the loser waits, waiting for the day to return, or waiting for death. The story is not about the strong. It is about the imbalance. So if you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, you are not just a witness. You are a witness to a time when nature was full of life. You are a bridge between the past and the future. You can tell your children about a time when all species lived in harmony. And you can help preserve it, if you start today. Don't wait until your children ask, "Grandpa, what is a forest?" to regret it. Every small action, like every tree in the forest, counts. Start now. Because if there is hope for all species, there is a chance for us. Thank you for watching today's video. If you find this story touching your heart, please click like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with people who are also interested in nature. We will be back soon with more emotional stories about the wild world. Goodbye and see you again.